God, here I am. I'm on the outside. I'm in the frickin' I'm on the out. See that guy almost run me over? And I'm in the crosswalk. So I'm in the outskirts. He was fucking pretty upset about me filming him, but there's nothing he can do. So that's your best prevention against a stalker is to film it. But where I want to go with the situation actually close to what just happened. I'm out in a podunk town, way out on the frickin' outskirts of Tokyo. This is technically Tokyo. And it's like the message of this story is, from what just almost happened, I almost got ran over by that guy. And so the message, the theme of this story is I would rather be wrong and alive than right and dead. So I would rather be wrong and alive than right and dead. And so a strong analogy of that is like a familiar intersection like this, but it was more of it was in a different part of Tokyo, more crowded. There was a lot of heavy trucks, like 18-wheelers and dump trucks and stuff, coming off the port and the construction site regularly through this intersection, right? And so for about a few days, I'm walking through this intersection, and I noticed this Japanese guy holding a baseball bat. And he's an aluminum bat, and he's always standing on this corner holding a bat. You know, and when I first walked past him, I got a little nervous, and I kept a strong eye on him because I've been hit with the baseball bat before a few times, and they always pick the back of my head. You can probably tell. They don't pick my face, so that's why it's so beautiful. But it seems like, I mean, they always hit me from the back every time I've gotten beat up with a baseball bat. But that's another frickin' stories. But so I was paying attention to this guy, right? And holding the baseball bat, and on the intersection, I'm wondering, well, why is this guy doing this? Who's he looking for? What's he looking for? And so I noticed in the intersection, like in Montana, where a person dies, they'll have flowers and all that stuff on the side of the road, or they have crosses in Montana. I don't know if they still do. That's another story, but they had the flowers, and then the picture of this girl that was probably maybe 7, 8, 9, somewhere in there, and some flowers. And, you know, I put 2 and 2 together, which I do occasionally. But like I said, I've been hit over the head with a baseball bat quite a few times, so I'm not all there. But some trucker off the port, more than likely like a dump truck or something like that, ran this girl over and took her life. You know, and this guy was standing on the street corner for, God, maybe a year and a half, trying to find the person that did that to his daughter. You know, and that's horrible. And so another example is I've gone through that intersection before, and I almost got ran over a few times, and then I was really freaking angry and self-justified, and I would like, the light's green, I got the crosswalk, I'm walking across, screw you. And a couple times I almost got ran over. So, you know, and a lot of people I've known have been hit by cabs. And most of the deaths in third world countries is not, well, this isn't a third world, but most of the deaths in third world countries aren't from, are from traffic accidents mostly. They're more so than diet. Like in the In the second world countries and first world countries, they're not traffic accidents, they're usually diet. But that's another story. So back on the other scenario, one time I got taken in Japan. That's where we're at. And in Japan, you hear about how honest and how freaking safe it is and how there's no crime. Well, BS on that. First of all, they cover the crime and it's buried, because do you want to go to a country where there's crime? Probably not, right? So I can say it's a lot safer than walking around in a lot of cities in the States. But there still is crime here. And I got taken for $4,000 by a real estate agent. And then I was at a meeting, we'll call it that way, about a week ago, and before I went into the meeting, this guy met outside that was a part of that meeting, but he wasn't in the particular meeting I was in. He also got taken for a real estate agent, and he went to court. He was legally right, everything. Within the contract, the parameters of the contract and all that stuff. And he took it to court. I mean, this guy was relentless. And I could tell that it caused this guy a bunch of stress. And after the third time, he took it to higher courts. He lost. And he had documents, he had the paperwork, he had everything recorded. He had all the frickin' everything right to where he should have won, and ultimately, he didn't win. And so he told me, long story short, he was able to, for free, sometimes you can talk to the judge or an attorney and all that stuff. And he just, I was surprised the judge was straight up with me, and he asked, does my being a foreigner have anything to do with me losing this case even though I'm right? And he said yes. So he was right, but he was causing him a lot of stress. So I would rather be wrong rather than take it to court. I just had to let it go. I had to let go $4,000. I mean, I have a bunch of footage, a bunch of proof of everything. I set everything up and I got it all, but rather than upload it all and fight over it, I had to let it go. I know this other guy that was a real estate, multi-million-dollar real estate tycoon in California, the ones you read about and hear about all the time. And he had this attorney come after him and set him up, and he was basically right in everything, but he's fighting this attorney in court for years, and it caused him a bunch of stress. And eventually he got cancer, and inevitably, from knowing him and his scenario, he was probably going to get cancer. But he said that it probably brought it on, the stress from that scenario, rather than just letting it go. So ultimately, you need to let things go and self-protect yourself. It's better to, even though you're right, better to be wrong and live than to be right and be dead. So that applies to a lot of things. If you think about it, it's better to be wrong and being alive than be right and be dead. If your life is more important than being right. That's a universal truth I've discovered in my existence on this planet. And I should be dead for a lot of different reasons. That's a different story.